right, it's 6 o'clock. We have 4 board members here tonight, so we do have a quorum. I would ask all of us to stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on, approval of the agenda. Jeff, is there anything that you have to add?
No, just an introduction of our student representative that we talked about placing right after the schedule presents.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to add to the agenda? If not, I will look for a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the introduction of the student rep.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Pete with the motion, Jolyn with the second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Scheduled presenters. We have 3 of them tonight, so get cozy. And we will start off with the Ed Foundation.
Where would you like me to be?
Let's off to the side somewhat, make sure we can get you on camera, please.
Would you like any of these slides up?
What's that?
Would you like any of these, which slides would you like up, or are you just gonna?
I guess just as people have questions, if people have questions, then we could go to the slides. Otherwise, I don't know how much of that information people want, but
Sure.
we can take questions if anybody has questions on those things.
Oh.
Be able to exit out of that? You just click into your screen, maybe? Oh.
There we go.
Okay, I am Jerry Geiken. I'm the current president of the Education Foundation. This is Cliff Gorman. He is the chairman of the program committee, so he takes care of the requests that come in from staff and present them to the board. We just have a quick overview of where we're at, what we're doing, and how things are going. So the Education Foundation, just for a little bit of history on us, the foundation was started in 1993. It was started by a group of business people as well as some school board members and the superintendent that was here at that time. They put the foundation together in order to provide funding for educational programs that go above and beyond what the school's regular budget is. So normally we think of the things that can enhance the students' classroom learning and enhance the things that they're already learning there, the extra things that we can give that make learning more interesting, learning more fun. And of course, over the years since 1993, those things have changed pretty drastically. The way that you educate is very different than it was back then, and the opportunities that we have for enhancing those educations have changed dramatically also. So we are very proud to be able to partner with the school staff and be able to provide some of those fun things for the kids and interesting things and learning things for the kids. The foundation board is 12 to 15 members. At the moment, or this fiscal year, we are a full board with 15 members. It's strictly volunteer. There's no paid positions in our foundation. The board members serve a 4-year term, and they can serve 2 consecutive terms. And then you have to be off for a year before you can come, if you choose to come back on. We're currently doing 3 fundraisers every fiscal year. In the fall, we've done the poker social the last 5 years. That's been a really fun event. It's a good way for us to connect with the community. It's also been a great way for us to get people downtown and into some of the businesses who have supported the foundation for many years. It's been a fun thing to see, a way that we can kind of give back to those businesses that have supported us for all of these years to get us to where we're at right now. We also have a fall fund drive. We do that in conjunction with Give MN in November, the statewide, what do they call it, the Great Minnesota Give Together, I believe. So we've done that in conjunction with that in November, and we do a mailing, we do newsprint and social media notifications for that event. We also in the spring do a benefit auction that is coming up in April. That'll be on Saturday, April 26th at the Canna River Winery. That's been our largest fundraiser of the year. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great social event for the community also. People look forward to that event. So those are the three big things that we do for fundraisers. Attached to the agenda was all of our financial information. Those were the financial reports from the end of December. And I can answer any questions if you have any questions on finance or where we're at financially, if anybody has any questions on that. Cliff's going to give kind of an overview on the program committee and the things that we funded and the budget. Do you want to do questions on finance now, or do you want to listen to what Cliff has and then we can take questions after?
Sure. No, if anyone has any questions for Jerry, whether it's from up there or anyone up here? Looks like it's up to you, Cliff.
Save the questions for me. All right. Sure, yeah. All right, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I just want to talk about our program budget for that foundation. So this year we had $115,000 coming into the year for 24-25 school year, so it's up nicely from the previous year. So far this year we've had 22 requests come in for $56,000, so that leaves us about $58,000 for the rest of the year. Some of the larger things that we've funded this year, fourth grade Eagle Bluff trip, which always seems a big hit here, coming up in April. Joel Beckman's coming on March 18th, and that's going to be presentation at the school during the day and then open to the community in the evening as well. Kindness retreat for students in 5th grade and a courage retreat for students in 7th grade, and several items for the STEM students in the middle school are some of the bigger projects this year. I know we got 6 more, I think, that we're looking at here in February. So. And then
I gave them the
Oh, okay, yeah. So one thing we did just also want to highlight too is that earlier this year we were trying to find ways to promote and recognize our largest donors, the Club 252 members. So we worked with Bonnie's STEM classes, I think, right? And they were able to put together some decals that are out there that hopefully you'll be able to see on some vehicles here for Club 252 members. And I know they did a little write-up in the Beacon on that too. So it was kind of a fun full circle moment where they were able to put the stuff together and some of the equipment that we've been able to fund. So.
We did a bit of a design contest with the students, and I don't know for sure which grade level that was that did the designing, but we asked the students to come back with some designs. They came back with, I think there were 4 different designs that we were able to select from, and then that was the one that we chose and that they printed for us. So that was a lot of fun to see that come together and kind of a full circle moment for us. Some other highlights first from students giving back to us. A lot of times students or at the auction will end up with student-made items that we can auction off in the spring, and those are always a big hit with parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, and those kind of things. But it's nice to see the results of the things that we've funded in the past and see that come full circle like that. Any questions for us?
I don't have any questions, but I think it's absolutely amazing that this town has you guys. I think there are so many things that our school and our kids and our staff would just be totally missing out on if it wasn't for you guys, and it is awesome.
There's some pretty amazing things, and I always feel like when we do an event, especially like the auction, it's a ton of work. But when you see how the businesses in town and even private parties, how they come behind this and help out with things and support the school, it's pretty amazing to see. I've gone and visited with other schools when they've been trying to develop ed foundations and bigger cities than us, and they don't have the business community like we do. Of course, bigger communities, those businesses are being pulled in a lot more directions than ours, but it's pretty amazing to see the things that we're able to do in a community of 4,000 people. You know, when I look at other Ed Foundation's records and that kind of thing, it's pretty amazing the things we get to do here. It's pretty fun to see.
Well, thank you both. Thank you for everything you guys do and your members, all your members. And yeah, hopefully the public, a lot of our parents and stuff just realize that how the costs are kept down because of the funding that is provided and the additional supplies and everything else. So thank you both.
And thanks you guys for serving as our liaisons too. It's helpful to have school board liaisons that we can bounce ideas off of or have that connection so that we know when we get a request in how does the school board foresee that fitting into the school? So we appreciate your time that you put in with us too.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we will move on to the middle school and high school PTO.
Try and stand or like.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
All right, hello everybody. So we're not as established as the Ed Foundation. So we're a newer group, and I'm just gonna give a little background on kind of how our group started. A couple of years ago, there were a handful of us parents, probably in like different age groups. So some of us had high schoolers, some of us had middle schoolers, some of us had just elementary students, and we kind of all had a common theme of kind of looking at the elementary, because I know Melinda does the PTO for the elementary, and just saying, hey, we could use some extra support in the middle school and high school. A PTO group didn't exist. I personally had 3 children go through.
We met, we have a few roof issues that we're looking at and discussing, different strategies of how we are going to attack that and pay for that, as well as tennis courts need to be repaved. So our funding's a little tight, so we're trying to get pretty creative on how we can tackle that. Also went over all of our pricing for what we charge for our facilities, and also how we categorize everyone. So that was a little bit on facilities, and then also I was just going to say on negotiation standpoint, Joe Lynn, Jeff, and myself are attending a seminar tomorrow all day down in Rochester for that. Anyone else have anything to add?
We have our kickoff meeting for WeTech next week on February 20th, so I should have an update.
Okay. All right. We will move on to administrative board reports. Elementary school. Stephen, you have anything you want to add to your report?
Just a couple things. One, Friday night, Nikki Green and some PTO members helped get set up the corner of the office with a very cool, colorful design with some beanbag chairs, some stickers on the wall, a rug. It's going to be kind of in coordination with our PBIS program. It's going to be like a reward area for kids. So if, like today, for example, we actually had some kindergartners and I think some second graders come in during indoor recess time and read books there, play some games, color, things like that. Didn't have a picture of it before this was submitted, but I can send you each one. It's a really cool area. So thank you to Nikki and elementary PTO for everything there. What else? I had a couple things. Oh, the other one is just in my report I had mentioned that we've had a fair amount of indoor recess days with some fluctuating temperatures. I gave a shout out to the parents and teachers for keeping everything calm there. And I want to give a shout out too for all the arrival and dismissal teachers and pairs that we have outside, because on those cold mornings, it's cold. It's just putting it nicely. So we've got a couple of them here tonight, but that whole team is just great, and they're always out there. They always got a smile on their face somehow, and it's just great with having elementary kids walk in, seeing them every day.
All right, middle school, high school technology. Tim, anything you want to add to your report?
I just want to reiterate thank you to Corey Nemchek. Oh, I'm going to miss somebody in this. Corey Nemchek, Chrissy Nelson, Kathy Stark, Alicia Dawson, Mr. Strauss, for helping me get the middle school, high school portion of the ADSYS grant completed last week, and that was submitted on Friday. So we're looking forward to having some ADSYS support in this building next year.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Community Ed and Activities Department. Reed, anything to add?
Couple things that I added after I submitted. Thursday we have section wrestling at
Plainview, Elgin, Millville, 6 o'clock. We wrestle Austin at Plainview, Elgin, Millville. And then the winner will turn around right away at 7 and face Plainview, Elgin, Millville. That is Thursday. Then the winner of that last match will advance to Mayo Civic. Friday and Saturday, state dance. Our Bomber dance team has advanced to state again. Jazz is Friday. They will perform at 11:58. Kick is Saturday. They will perform at 12:12. And we will have a state send-off for them on Thursday, 2 o'clock down at the elementary and 2:20 up here at the middle school, high school.
Sounds like the fun time of winter sports is coming up.
We got a lot going.
All right, I did not see Stephen here. Soups report, Jeff?
Yes. So, a couple of things here. First of all, there's a couple items that did not make my report, but I wanted to speak about it anyway. A week ago, this past Friday, Cannon Falls Area Schools hosted the legislative breakfast for Southeast Minnesota, and it's an honor that we get to host that because we are one of 41 schools within Southeast Minnesota, within the Southeast Co-op region, and we were asked to host that legislative session, and it is a session for House members and Senate members that are currently in this area of southeastern Minnesota to come and listen to issues in regards to education from school board members and superintendents. We had a good showing from our school board members here in attendance that day, along with myself being the master of ceremonies. We did have lots of good presentations. We got a lot of good feedback from not only the senators and the representatives, but also from different school board members and superintendents on those presentations. And as a follow-up to that, I've been asked to speak via Zoom tomorrow with a group of senators and Republicans to let them know our concerns here just in Cannon Falls over unfunded mandates and the type of dollars that we are spending. I do plan on giving those amounts and speaking truth to what is actually happening here with the unfunded mandates and how our cuts that are coming up later on today in our meeting are kind of a result of a lot of those unfunded mandates. And so more to come on that. I can let you know how that goes during our next meeting. As far as my report is concerned, we do have a community collaboration planning meeting coming up, and if you remember, it was our partnership with the EDA in doing a lot of the walk around town. If you remember that from earlier this year, I think Rhonda, you were a part of that prior to coming onto the school board. But we are having a follow-up meeting coming up on Wednesday, February 26th, to further the work of that community collaboration planning meeting. And so I know myself will be there, and I think Clinton will be there, but we want to see if there's another board member, or maybe two that can show up. What's that? You'll be able to go?
When is it?
It's February 26th. We should not have a quorum there, though, so you guys may have to arm wrestle to see when you may be able to go to that. So just let myself know for sure, and I'll let Laura Qualley know as well. And then coming up, if you're an officer here on the board, there is a workshop coming up on where did that date go? March 7th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. School board chairs, treasurers, vice presidents, clerks are highly encouraged to go to this, especially if you have not been to a session like this before. It is on Friday, March 7th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. If that day works for you, please let myself or Lori know, and we'll be registered for that day as well.
Rochester.
It'd be in Rochester at the Rochester Public Schools Edison Building, downtown. So other than that, unless you guys have questions, that's all I have, other than the agenda items.
Any questions for Jeff? All right, we'll move on to public input. Comments are welcome from students, residents of the district, taxpayers of the district, people with children in the district, and employees of the district, and must relate to the current agenda and not exceed 3 minutes. The board may or may not engage in a discussion during the comment period, but will take the information and find answers that is appropriate. Due to data privacy concerns, a speaker may not address criticism towards an individual district employee during public input. Individual complaints should be handled privately with building administrators and/or the superintendent. As part of the board protocol, it is unacceptable for any speaker to slander or engage in character assassination at a public board meeting. Is there anyone that would wish to speak to the board? Dan?
I would respectfully ask the board to reconsider the proposal to cut both junior high assistant football positions and instead retain one of them. Football is one of the most popular sports among our junior high boys, with nearly 40 students participating each year. Maintaining at least one assistant coach would allow us to have a total of 3 coaches at that level, which is far more effective both for practices and games. At practice, the third coach is invaluable. They assist with equipment issues, help set up and run drills, and allow the team to be divided into 3 natural position groups, enhancing player development. During games, the role of the assistant coach becomes even more critical. One coach alone cannot effectively call the plays, manage substitutions, address injuries, and handle everything happening on both on the field and the sideline. An assistant coach helps ensure the game runs smoothly and that our athletes receive the guidance and support they need. For these reasons, I strongly urge you to consider cutting only one junior high assistant coaching position instead of both. Doing so would allow us to maintain a strong and structured program that continues to serve our student athletes safely and effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else like to speak to the board? Yeah, Dawn?
Okay, Dawn Lanning. So I was trying to look up some of the committee information, and there really isn't anything beyond the school board committee assignments on the website anywhere besides agendas. And the finance committee meeting that you had last Friday wasn't announced at the last school board meeting. There wasn't an agenda. I don't know, maybe you published an agenda a little bit ahead of that, but not a far way ahead of that committee meeting. So I was just wondering if, committee members aren't published on anywhere. It'd be nice to have that stuff available. So if people want to attend the committee meetings, they can attend the committee meetings if they're interested. And then when I was looking for information, the last curriculum committee meeting that I found was back in October of '23. And what came out of that was that the middle school and high school, that there should be a review of the middle school and high school language arts that was scheduled for this year. I don't know if the curriculum committee has any plans to do that, or when that would be done, because I can't find anything. And then the other thing too is from the superintendent's report, I think, there was a student survey that the students took last week or recently. I'm just wondering when those results will be shared or discussed. And then the last thing on the school bus route, it said that you're going to eliminate a school bus route. I was just wondering if you're planning on eliminating a bus, like if the coverage, the routes are just going to change to encompass a larger bus route, so you're still going to be covering the same area for busing students, or if you're planning on shrinking the coverage of your busing kind of thing. And then I think that was it. Oh, and it would be nice if, when you get to it, if you can elaborate a little bit on what the administration reorganization is, because that's about 1/4 of what you're saving. It's pretty big, so it'd be nice to just kind of go into that a little bit.
We will be going through that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Lori, can you answer for the agendas, where are they all posted?
For the different committees?
Yep, they're on our website.
The agendas are, there's no meeting minutes, and there's no schedule for committee meetings. So like, like if you had a regular cadence for committee meetings kind of thing, that'd be one thing, or you can just say, well, they're
Well,
this.
yeah,
this,
a lot
this.
of them are on different days all the time.
Yeah.
It's to make the schedules work for whoever's all on the committee.
But if it could be announced at a board meeting, you know, that those meetings are coming up. It wasn't
I
an,
mean, we can look at doing that if we know, but like, right now, as we sit right now, we might have another committee meeting of some sort next week, but we don't even know as of like right now. So it's all when things come up. I believe those agendas need to be posted 3 days in advance, correct?
yep, they are.
So they are always on there at least 3 days in advance.
At the bottom of the agenda, does it say then when the next meeting is for each committee? Not
We
necessarily.
don't always know what.
Doesn't
when
always
the
pick
next
one,
one.
okay. There are a few committees that do stay pretty regular, but like Clinton said, there are a few that kind of vary a little bit, but.
Right. Anyone else wish to speak to the board? All right, and we will move on. There is no old business. New business. Consideration to approve an intermittent FMLA request in accordance with the Teacher's Master Agreement, Article 10, Leaves of Absence, Section 8, medical leave from February 18th, 2025 to the end of the year.
This is for Bonnie Till Austin, and I recommend approval.
All right, I would look for a motion to approve that.
I'll make motion.
Jolynn on the motion,
I'll second.
Rondi on the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. Consideration to approve the student activity bank rotation schedule. Jeff?
As Rondi mentioned earlier in the Finance Committee meeting, there was discussion around possibly looking at a different or a change in the rotation because some banks are left off completely for the possibility of up to 10 years of seeing school money coming in. And so they were asked us to see if there was a fairer way of doing this. And we pretty much agreed with that as a committee, or the committee agreed with that statement. And so the outcome is a recommendation to continue the main accounts that we have that we rotate every 5 years and keep that schedule, but also rotate the student activity account, which for whatever reason when it was set up, it was never rotated out of Merchants Bank. And so that will follow the main account, if you can think about this in your head. So once the main account leaves one bank, the student activity account follows it, and then it kind of shifts around every 5 years into that rotation. Help me out, Josh, the HSA accounts will stay at Merchants
Correct,
because.
those are basically employee-based anyway, so.
Right. And so there is one account that we will keep there at Merchants permanently, but they will also catch the rotations as they go by as well. So that is a recommendation to approve that new schedule for the Finance Committee.
Josh, you have any feedback on that or input?
It's just more work. It is a hassle to move it with the electronic stuff, but it's born out of, I think, originally fairness. Usually 4 banks, we rotate them every 3 years. Now that there are 3 banks in town, the 5 years makes a little bit more sense. It is a lapse of time of about 10 years if you're not on that rotation. So to add the student activity account just allows 2 of the 3 banks at one time to have a hold of some of the funds of the school district. So we'll just be adding that student activity account to follow the main account.
All right, so again, this is a recommendation from the Finance Committee. I would look for a motion to approve this.
I'll motion it.
I'll second.
Pete with the motion, Jolynn with the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. Sorry, Josh, you got some more work.
That's all right.
All right, moving on to number 3, consideration to approve the fiscal year 26 proposed budget reductions and revenue increases. Jeff, walk us through this.
Yes, at an earlier meeting, the board asked me and the administrators to come back with a list of $535,000 worth of cuts per the recommendation from the Finance Committee earlier to create a balanced budget for the next fiscal year. And through a process with our administrative team, we've come up with this list, and we have passed this in front of the Finance Committee, and this is a recommendation from the Finance Committee to pass these as well, as we've brought it to the board here. But I'll go through and talk about these line items in each of these areas, and if you have questions, we can certainly talk about them as we go along. But I'll try to do my best to explain them so that we kind of cut down on the number of questions as well. Some of these are pretty self-explanatory, and some of them may need a little bit more information. So as we go through this, just please feel free to interrupt me. The first one is a technology subscription, and this is mainly IXL and another programming subscription that we use. And the cut for that will be $9,000. In some areas, we will keep IXL, I believe, in special ed.
ADSYS.
Oh, ADSYS, thank you. We will be keeping that subscription, but for the rest of the designated grade levels, we will be cutting that subscription. Second line item is elementary teacher. And this will be specifically in third grade, as the numbers coming into third grade next year only warrant 3 sections as opposed to 4 right now.
And can I ask what those numbers are?
Yeah, I believe there's 66 kids in that grade level in second grade right now. So third grade, it'll be
So about
3 sections,
22.
about 22
Okay.
per class. The next item is a secondary teacher as well, innovation lab facilitator. Currently, the lab is open in each hour of the day, I believe, for students to come in and out and for classrooms to use that. Currently, we do not get any funding for the students attending that, and so the teacher that is funded in there is straight out of our undesignated fund. With closing of that lab as an open lab to students, classes will still be able to access that lab moving forward, so it won't close completely. It'll just look different in how we are using it moving forward. Part of that cut also is reducing the required amount for social studies, and the board will have to, if the board passes this, we will have to come back at a different meeting to lower the amount of required social studies credits. Currently, we are a half of a credit above what the state requires, whatever reason that was back in whenever they passed that. So we would bring that back down to what the state requires and not be above that. Eliminating most 6th assignments, and that is the total for all of the 6th assignments that we are looking at eliminating. And for most 6th assignments, those were extra sections of some classes. Tim, is that an accurate statement?
Correct.
And so we wouldn't necessarily be eliminating singletons unless they didn't have enough kids registered
Correct.
for that as well.
We'll be looking at putting some classes in some departments on rotation. So instead
Like
of
every other
offering
year?
these classes every year, they'll be offered every other year.
Okay. And when we say most 6th assignments, when we get to the end point or the end game of scheduling, sometimes we do need that extra assignment to make schedules work sometimes.
Correct.
For that. High school scheduling is not an exact science some years, is the best way to describe that. ACT, AP testing fees will be turned over to students. Currently, the district puts in about 50%, from what I remember of those exact numbers. for a lot of the
50% for
testing.
AP tests.
Yep.
ACT.
ACT district has been paying it all.
What's that?
The ACT has been fully subsidized by the district.
So the ACT is being fully subsidized and the AP is about half?
A little more than half, about 2/3.
Okay, so then that would be all turned over to student costs at this point. We would eliminate Bomber Academy transportation. And Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, but currently, we do go over budget in our targeted services each year, and that's mainly due to transportation. A lot of area schools do not provide transportation for this type of services for students, and so we will eliminate that transportation here.
Do we know how many kids are roughly using the transportation? Rough idea?
Right now, I would guess 22.
22 kids?
22 of the 50-ish that we have in it right now.
Okay.
Is that mostly rides home, or?
Yep. In the summertime, it's to and from. During the school year, during our fall and like winter session, it's just a ride home because it's right after school.
Sure.
The next line item is a curriculum purchase over 2 fiscal years. The one that we currently have coming up is K through 5, and it's a new language arts series that was shocking at the cost of it, and it's mainly due to the READ Act coming up. And the cost total was $164,000 for that, which is usually a lot more than what we would normally spend on a series. And so what we plan on doing is using the remaining dollars out of this fiscal year's curriculum purchases and shifting it into next fiscal year as part of the cut. And so we'll be able to cover those, or that full purchase out of next fiscal year by that accounting shift. So it'd be covered over 2 fiscal years instead of out of just 1 fiscal year. We would eliminate 1 bus route by having the buses, we would combine basically 2 routes. Allison felt comfortable with doing that, and by doing that, we saved $29,757. I still need to find the policy on this, but I've been hearing reports that there was a policy passed back in the day that said that kids will not be on buses over an hour. We still need to look for that policy, which it hasn't showed up yet. But if that does happen, Allison felt very comfortable in saying that kids should not still be on the bus more than an hour, even with this shift in condensing the route. But if we do find that, I may bring that back as well, just in case. We would reduce our marketing budget by $10,000 with the next line item.
Jeez, what are we spending on that right now?
Josh, do you have that off the top of your head? Is it about 30,000?
If you add in the social school 3, you would be 40.
40, with the social school piece to it. And this was created a few years back, and we used the justification with gaining students out of the marketing, and a lot of schools are actually turning to this type of marketing that we've been doing for quite a few years now. And so, but we are reducing that amount, but still have some of the program. Administrative restructure. In looking at this, we are looking at going to, currently we have a middle school, high school principal, elementary principal, and until recently a K through 12 assistant principal. We would be looking at having for next year a middle school, high school principal, elementary principal, and a K through 12 dean of students. And the difference in that restructure, going from a K-12 assistant principal to a K-12 dean, is that the dean cannot supervise staff, nor can they suspend students. And so that would still fall on the lap of the principals. Those are the 2 biggest things. But the pieces that third person picks up outside of that and in the areas of testing and other student supervision is immense at that time, or at this point, as far as still needing that third person.
Would that dean be able to teach some classes some too, or not?
Suppose they could, depending on their licensure.
Sure.
And that would tie them up and maybe even restrict a little bit of their admin time as well.
Okay.
Do we ever have our vice principal have to step into a classroom? currently? Two
Yeah,
buses?
they sub. I mean,
Sub,
all
yeah,
the
yeah.
administrators
Yep.
sub.
So this person potentially could also maybe do the same thing? depending
Yeah,
on
if they
licensure.
needed to, yeah. And subbing, you can just be any licensure. Quite a bit of the next few are in the activity area and facility areas as we go through this. There will be an activity fee increase starting next school year. And we will be moving from 125 up to 185 for each of the activities that students participate in. There will be a few one-offs, like the weightlifting fee increase that'll go from, was it 65 now, Reed? And that'll go up to 185 as well. The family activity fee cap will also increase, and what was those numbers?
650.
Up to 650 now?
It was 650.
Oh, it was 650, and up to
900.
900 now. The credit, oh, go ahead.
Well, on the activity fees, how does that compare to schools in our area?
I don't know if you want to speak to that. How is this compared to schools in our area?
How does the proposed fee to 185 compare to schools in our area?
Everybody's looking at this right now. There are some that are already going to 200.
Okay.
So,
I would say we're not high.
right.
Are we on the median side?
We'll be in line. And we have not, but I can go back in regards to our HPL sheet that we share as HPLADs, we have not increased our activity fees since at least 2018. It might have been, it might be even longer. But that's as far as the data on this shared report goes, is to 2018.
Got it, thank you.
There's also a few schools, like, they're bigger schools, but in the area, like your Farmingtons, your Northfield, they're well in the 300s. So, I don't think it's out of line.
Yeah, okay.
Credit card fee to users on the school lunch side, we have credit card fees paid by the users. On the activity side, we have not been doing that, so we will be adding that starting next school year as well. The next line item, currently we are not charging for usage of our senior center, or we're not charging seniors for the use of our space to be called the senior center is probably the better way to say that. We are looking at having $1,000 a month as the price for that. And we have informed the senior center of that currently, in case you are wondering. We've also increased the School of Dance rental from what they currently pay. And do you remember the prices on that, Reed?
That was 100, and now it's going to go to
350 a month.
350 a month from 100, okay.
And you said both the senior center and the school of dance have agreed to that, or is that a possibility?
They've been made aware of it.
Okay.
And so some of these, and we'll get to that at the bottom, that some of these, if they don't agree to not rent it, that's 12,000, and we'll talk about that at the bottom of this. We have an increase to the activity pass fee. I don't know if Reed, if you can, a little bit more on that.
Yep. The adult single will go from 50 to 75, and the family, which is used very sparingly with the students getting in free, will go from 140 to 175.
The next few here are eliminations. We would eliminate the junior high paid scorebook and scoreboard workers. We would eliminate 2 junior high football coaches, assistant coaches. Eliminate a cross-country assistant coach. We would eliminate the cheerleading program. Eliminate the BPA advisor.
Which is what again?
Business Professionals of America. And the final one that we would be eliminating would be the band choir concert stipend, and that is, it's our understanding that that was used when we had 2 band teachers, and that was the stipend that they could apply for concerts. And so with us not having 2 band teachers, we don't have a need for that anymore. The next one is the reclassification of the huddle package expense. Currently, that is in our general fund, and that will be moved into a fundraising fund, the scoreboard raising fund out of the AD's office. And finally, we would have thermostat changes throughout all of our buildings where in the wintertime, we would drop the temperature by a degree. I gotta make sure I say this right. And then in the summertime, we would raise it by a degree as well. And if you have questions about how we came to that dollar amount for that, you can ask Josh. And Josh is pointing at Reed. But there was a scientific method to that. That wasn't throwing darts at the 9,500.
Still an estimate, but yeah.
And so the total amount here you'll see is over the 535,000. It's $563,000 approximately. There is some areas that when Rondi brought that up, that if the senior center decides not to rent from us, obviously $12,000 comes off of that. If the School of Dance pulls out, that was, what was that? 3,000. And so.
Same with activity fees and.
Oh, sure. The activity fees, it all depends on who's coming out, how many people come to games, you know, so we have historical data that we base these numbers off of, but again, there's still that need for a little bit of flexibility around that number. And so with that, I do recommend that the board passes it at the 563, just because of the need for that flexibility around that. And quite honestly, if the board decides to go out for an operating levy next year and it does pass, we still won't get the funds for another, at least until past the fiscal year. So we're going to have to make additional cuts to help balance, even if we do pass something, and heaven forbid, if we don't pass something, those will be deeper cuts even. So I do recommend that we do go with the 563, what's listed there. And then, obviously, if you're feeling comfortable tonight to make those, to okay this list from the Finance Committee and our administration, we can continue planning again for next year. If you don't decide and you want to delay this until another meeting, we can certainly go until the next meeting, but keep in mind that we don't finalize the cuts until a meeting after you guys finalize this list. Because then we come back with actual names that go on the list as well. So that is all I have. If you have questions, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a couple. Jeff, could you speak to the timing on, so if this passes this evening, timing on when the communication will come out? Let's pick on the bus route, so families could prepare if there's a change to their pickup and drop.
Yeah, I think once Allison knows, when she goes through her process of these, the actual bus route won't change until next year. And so when Allison finds out which route she's putting together, she would communicate to those families that this is going to be your pickup.
And would that come out this summer, would we guess? Just, again, I'm thinking, right, for, as a parent of kids who have taken the bus, like how to plan.
Sure. Does Allison give you, or does she contact you at some point?
At the beginning of the school year, I think it was?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's probably when that would be.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I would assume that she's planning routes earlier on in August.
Right.
Yeah, that's, beginning of summer is when we get the communication. Okay.
Yeah.
There was some talk too, and this may be out of turn, Allison did mention something about maybe doing a more strategic opt-in, opt-out to make sure that we're running buses to appropriate houses. And if there's people that maybe only ride once a week that would just completely opt out, that would restructure some routes as well.
Yeah, we talked about actually implementing that system this coming year, so we would get a good feel of how much busing we actually do need, because we don't want to make blind cuts to that. And so we would probably start implementing that this coming fall, where we would ask families to opt in for transportation, and if we find out throughout the year this could actually work, then we would implement that the following year to probably even cut more routes if we need to.
With our, like, activity fee increase, for example, with some of our sports fees kind of going up a little bit, do we have a system in place for maybe kids or families who maybe have like financial burdens and need help?
Yeah, we would have the same system that we
Okay.
have in place.
Perfect, okay.
And how many students are in the cheerleading program?
Do you know how many students were in the cheerleading program, Reed?
What's that?
How many students are in the cheerleading
We
program?
have 6 this year.
Sorry, what was that?
6.
6.
We've dwindled down each year, the last 3 years.
Good question. Just think about buses. Can I do that? No.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and allow one question.
Oh. Are there, because I live in the country, so like in more like the city limits, do kids go to one bus stop? Or is it always picked up at every house? And I ask, because where I live, my neighbor, a separate unit comes to their house, and then a bus comes to our house, and I just, when I think of like the logic behind how that's all moving, I don't know how that's evaluated every year.
In town, they have specific pickup points
Yeah,
for multiple houses.
yeah.
In the country, I'm assuming it's every house because of the distance between them. I can't say that that's 100% true in all cases.
Oh,
Just depends on whoever says it's
Also,
easier to pick up.
If you'd like to reach out to Allison, I'm sure she'd be happy to tell you.
Yeah.
You guys have any other questions?
I don't think so.
Jeff, I'll ask, what is the, when you know that we need to come up with some cuts, what is the initial process of how it gets started? Where do you start? Is this a full admin team? Is this you and Josh starting? Is this, how
We
does
look
this?
for input from our admin team, from each of the areas, the principals, Reed's area, Stevens area, the head of facilities, and we look at such things as class sizes. Obviously, you can't cut $535,000 worth of pencils and erasers. And so 75% of our budget is staff and benefits, or staff salaries and benefits. And unfortunately, that's usually a lot of it.
Right.
You gotta look at what's required from the state as well. You also have to look at programming, how everything fits together, and that's where a lot of the admin discussions come in about, okay, we can say we can cut this, but how does that fit into our overall programming, and does it work with what we want to do the following year, and does it make sense?
Thank you.
Yep.
I got 2 more questions. One on the curriculum purchase. So if we're, will there be an impact to our purchase schedule? Right? Do we have a regimented schedule? You touched on what the curriculum may be, but as we're looking at, do we buy curriculum every year? Is it every 5 years? Is it every 3 years?
Yeah, we have a curriculum purchase cycle, and last year, because of some questions about the READ Act implementation, we didn't purchase elementary reading curriculum last year. And then we got the quote for the purchase this year, which was over double what we normally pay for a whole grade, like elementary curriculum purchase. So this will shift everything down a year. So something that we would have been looking at purchasing for next year will be moved down for 2 years.
Was it just that particular curriculum that was spendy, or do you notice that other curriculum packages are increasing as well?
We haven't done a big one in a while, and it kind of, it's changed over time. Pre-COVID, textbooks were much more expensive than online subscriptions. After COVID, we found out the textbook prices dropped, but the subscription prices increased pretty dramatically.
Yeah.
So it's normally not my part of things to look at elementary curriculum purchases. This one seemed really, really high. The biggest purchase that we have done in the 15 years I've been here before this was our last science curriculum purchase, and that was a little over, it was almost $90,000. So this is almost double that, which is a
And I
lot.
think to your question as well, and Stephen can maybe touch a little bit on this, but I believe there was, the elementary staff looked at 2 or 3 different curriculums.
Yep, the literacy committee last year selected 2 different programs to look at, and they had samples and took a vote. And so the one that won out amongst that vote is the one that will be purchased. The second place one is only $5,000 cheaper.
Okay. Right, and I think the READ Act and that legislation probably prompted a lot of this price increase. I'll say it, unfortunately.
Is there a mandatory rule for how frequently we are expected to purchase new curriculum?
No, there's not a mandatory rule, but standards change
Totally.
over time from the state, and so we have to kind of monitor and adjust that with our curriculum cycle to meet those.
Our cycle has changed just about every year for the last 6 or 7 years based on how the state has put out new standard requirements. So when I started, we had a 7-year cycle that we were on for about 3 years before the state kind of threw a wrench in that. And we've been, essentially we've been reactive to what the state changes have been. I think we're in an okay place by moving that curriculum purchase down a year. But I don't even want to hazard a guess at what the cost of that's going to be, because like Jeff said, I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, but it is coincidental that the READ Act came out and then all of a sudden the curriculum that we want to purchase for reading is twice as expensive as it had been the last time. So.
And it should be known also, and this is part of my beef with the state as well currently, is that it's only partially meets the requirements of the READ Act. And there's only one curriculum that's fully approved by the state that we would never really go with, I think is the best way to say that. And so we are picking one off of the partially approved list, and the only one that's fully approved is, how do I say this? It's with the company that really helped put in the READ Act. So, yes, I'm on camera saying that.
So with that, talking on the topic of curriculum, so with unfunded mandates, anything that would come up with new classes or requirements, would we be setting ourselves up for, we're not gonna do this for the next 2 years, anything that's coming out from an unfunded mandate, whether it's curriculum-based or class-based that we can purchase a curriculum, are we gonna have a lack in funding from that perspective for curriculum?
There's one new class that I believe starts next year, and that is the financial.
Personal
one.
finance.
Personal
Yeah, personal
finance, and I'm guessing we can pull resources from various areas for that.
Yeah, so one of the changes, I guess it was actually 2 years ago, or 2 sessions ago, was the state required personal finance for students in grades 10, 11, or 12, starting with the kids who are currently freshmen. So the way we're going to address that next year is we're pulling personal finance off of the elective rotation for everybody else, and we'll offer a section of personal finance next year that can be taken by our sophomores. And then as students progress through, we'll eventually have 3 sections of personal finance every year. essentially one for sophomores, juniors, and seniors. I don't think that putting this, pushing a purchase off a year is gonna really negatively impact anything. The next purchase after the elementary reading purchase would be middle school, high school language arts purchase, and for the most part, that department creates their own curriculum off of the standards, so they don't have a big textbook purchase. What would be more likely with that group would be purchasing classroom sets of novels, which is significantly less expensive than doing a textbook purchase. So we'll have to address that. We'll have to address the personal finance, but that's kind of a limited scale purchase. It's not like something that hits every grade, in a school. So really the big ones that would be kicked down the road are like science is coming up for both the elementary and the middle school, high school. That one is going to be a year off. We're already a year off with them now, so another year is not going to impact those departments too terribly.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Stephen, on the Bomber Academy transportation, what's your gut feeling on, we eliminate that, are we going to be losing students that are attending that?
We'll lose some, yep. There are some, especially ones who's, like, depending on work schedule and where the student lives, like out in the country. Right now we have, after Bomber Academy, one van and one bus that goes out. I worked with Allison to try to keep it to 2 vehicles. It used to be 3. And that was much more expensive, so it's been 2 the last couple sessions. Of the, what did I say, 21 or 22 students, I think, I guess. I don't want to speculate too much. Some probably wouldn't be able to make it work. Yep. I don't want to throw a number out there, though.
Sure.
Some probably wouldn't be able to make it work, I guess.
Yep.
Like Jeff did say, I reached out to other area schools, and we are the only one of the ones that I reached out to that are close in size with us that is paying for transportation to take kids home from targeted services. So that was somewhat what prompted this.
Thank you.
Yep.
The other thing was on the, whether it's Tim or Stephen, on the ACT testing, you were saying that we fully subsidized that before as a school for the ACT testing? Is that correct? Is that something that's normal? Like, are other schools doing that as well? Do you know?
I don't really have any information on that. The requirement from the state is that we offer one session or one examination during the school year. When that originally came out, the state paid for it, and after 1 year, the state didn't pay for it anymore. So we chose to continue to pay for the test because we wanted the kids to take the test.
Right.
So that's kind of been an incentive that we've offered for families, is to have that. So I think that number is roughly $100 per student, and we have, between 55 and 60 kids who take the ACT every year. We get a little bit of, the state pays for students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. So we get a little bit of money back for that, but it's really a relatively small amount of that total.
Anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, I just have one on Bomber Academy transportation. So if we do, once we find out if we do lose that, do we allow families to opt in to pay for transportation? Or is that something that, is not allowed, or that is allowed? I'm not familiar with how that process works.
I mean, if at that point, could it be an option for those particular students to, if it's elementary building, for a lot of them to go to Ken Kids during that time frame?
Yep, that's currently an option.
Yeah.
It would, yes,
Yep,
continue to be an
correct.
option.
There's still room in Ken Kids and
Yep,
everything like that.
because we work with, elementary secretaries, Tammy, even just the general workers kind of work on, okay, this kid's going to school, then Bomber Academy, then Cannon Kids, or on this particular day, this kid's getting picked up at 4 o'clock because they have to go to dance, you know, or whatever. So we try to work with the parents and the secretaries and the workers involved with who's going where. So yeah, that is an option.
Because Bomber Academy's done at like, what, 4:15, 4:20?
4:20, yep.
4:20, and then Cannon Kids goes until 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Is there any other questions? So before we do this, I just want to make sure everyone knows what your options are as new board members. So you do have options that you can pull out any different items that you wish and make a motion on that. You can also make a motion to table this till the next meeting if you wish. Or you can make a motion as shown. So, just so you're aware of all these different options. And again, this is a recommendation from the Finance Committee. So at this time, I'd look for a motion.
What do we think about making a motion to table it to the next meeting? Just, it's a lot of cuts, it's a lot of money. If anybody has any additional questions, wants to chew on it a little bit.
That's for your decision to make.
We have 2 people who aren't here. That's my thought.
Is that a motion that you're making?
I'll make a motion
To
to
what?
table this to the next meeting.
Is there a second or a different motion?
I motion to pass it, but to the point of the other 2 board members.
I will comment on that, saying one of the missing board members is on the finance committee and brought this for approval.
I think it's a very concise list to where we are landed, so I motion to pass it.
Can I have 2 motions at the same time?
Yeah, 2 motions. You need a second to move forward on either one of those.
Right.
If you have a second, I'm guessing those are polar opposite.
I'll second the to approve as printed.
So now you need to move forward on that one.
Sure. So we have a motion and a second to approve the budget reductions and revenue increases as fully shown. Is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. All right, folks, right now, we are going to be heading into a closed session. You are more than welcome to sit around in the hallway and then come back after we open up, but right after we open up, we're just going to adjourn. So thank you all for coming, and our next meeting will be back here on the 24th.